more dark secrets await in Zangling Village. Past resentments and cherished ambitions remain unresolved. The story is far from over. Tao Mengyan has been having a recurring nightmare. A nightmare connected to the isolated village she and her parents left long ago. In this nightmare, she's tied to a tree in a paper wedding dress. The townsfolk crowd around her with their torches aloft, but they look like eerie puppets. Standing directly before her is the masked high priest. In swoops the executioner's blade. It's always the same. The parents refuse to talk about the past, so Tao Mengyan takes it upon herself to return to that mountain village of her childhood for answers. Zangling Village.
I messed up, everyone, and before anything gets out there and it just becomes this cesspit, I want to set things right. This is my apology video, and a like isn't forgiveness, and a subscribe isn't a cosign on anything I've done or am about to say, but for whatever ounce of integrity you still feel for Happy Gaming House, send your love and light our way. This channel's lifeblood is to champion retro and Chinese games, but I think I just ignored the best Chinese game series for at least 2 years. Nay, I scoffed, I dismissed, I turned up my nose at it. But now 2 weeks and a couple of dozen hours mainlining Paper Bride has straightened me out. This is sincerely on me. This won't be a mistakes were made, but not by me variety of non-apology. I'm not gonna put up a poor wall behind me and mug for sympathy like some chump. But context matters. Yes, since 2021, videos related to Paper Bride have racked up north of 2 billion views on Chinese platforms, and yes, I still did not play. But as an article in Super Pixel put it, many players felt as they were playing a PowerPoint presentation. But then it dawned on everyone, and yes, finally even me. Paper Bride is the apotheosis of its gameplay and influences. That developer Heartbeat Plus has cracked the golden path. And today on Happy Gaming House, I want to explain why. Why this may be China's best video game franchise. Let's address the playing a PowerPoint presentation charge. See, Paper Bride is a point-and-click puzzle horror series repping escape room design hard. The UI is shockingly unsophisticated and hasn't changed an iota over the many sequels in just a 3-year span. Actually, Paper Bride 6 is in development as of recording in late 2023. Paper Bride is also one of those, those free-to-play games on mobile, but consequently goes for a damn good price on Steam, so get the bundle. Something smells off in the digital promotion art too, unconvincing spookies and traditional costumes airbrushed to this perfection, such that it robs any sense of feeling. It screamed to me, we don't have any ideas of our own, let's dig up some old ghost stories and play up being as stereotypically Chinese as possible. I was wrong. Therein lies the danger of stopping at first blush. Paper Bride is not what it appears to be, or rather every other 2-bit developer and their dog wants to make out like they're offering up what Paper Bride delivers on. Paper Bride is a diamond in the rough. A thing birthed into this world with uncharacteristic care and love, in the company of Rusty Lake and Fran Bow, but all its own. Here are some of the reasons why. By some strange associative alchemy, the flat character designs placed in the context of the exquisite painterly backdrops start to take on depth. It helps that with each successive game, instead of phoning it in, Heartbeat Plus smartly raises the quality bar, being confident enough not to mess with the core formula, but instead doubling down on improved artwork, fresh puzzles, quality writing, original music, and since Paper Bride 4, added voice acting. Each game shares a familiar UI and 5-chapter structure, but to reduce the common interface, themes, and gameplay loop to just more of the same is as wrong-headed as ignoring the game in the first place. Paper Bride takes pains to present stock puzzles in new ways. There were even sliding puzzles I enjoyed. This company must relish subverting expectations. The varied environments are overstuffed cabinets of curiosity with meticulous puzzle set pieces, often as finely wrought as the puzzle boxes you'd find in the Room series, wherein the delineation between puzzle and environment just dissolves. The cultural elements aren't just window dressing either, but are substantive. Even while living in China and being functionally literate in Mandarin, I have learned so much. Ancient flute notation, how to use an abacus, puppetry, Chinese constellations, mythology, history, Taoist rituals, and a whole bunch of bonkers esoteric stuff. You have to use real knowledge to solve real puzzles, but thankfully there is a cohesion to the visual language which is crucial in a puzzle game, as you need to be able to readily identify salient information. There is a tension between making the puzzle parts obvious whilst not detracting from immersion in the story. In Tropeland, this is known as solve the soup cans. Soup cans is a derisive term for bizarre and disconnected elements included in a video game purely to serve as an obstacle to the player. In a game which includes puzzles, often anything at all can be a puzzle. TV tropes. In Paper Bride, almost everything is a puzzle, and you'll need to make intuitive so-called moon logic leaps. And I don't know if this is a distinction without a difference, but I really think Paper Bride straddles the line so well. On the one hand, integrating the puzzles within the world itself and the driving action of the plot, but also letting the puzzles just be puzzles and celebrating that. The whole series is about love. It's wholesome. Calling me a softie because I am, but it's nice how each game references a specific romantic story in the Chinese canon. It trades in archetypes without being beholden to them, just as it wears its cultural influences without becoming hidebound. This is a series of thought and intentionality. It's no epic, but achieves its modest aims, and we should love it for that. I think it's helpful not to think about this series going in totally cold. So I'd like to situate Paper Bride first by looking at the influences the developers cite themselves. First is the text for creepy Chinese stories, and that is Pu Songling's Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, or Liao Zhai Juyi, a source for countless TV, movie, and other adaptations. Perhaps most famously, this is where the short tale, The Painted Skin, comes from. Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio goes back to the 1600s and contains some 500 stories, including many zhuguai xiaoshou, or records of the weird. And an even earlier work mentioned by the developers as an inspiration is extensive records of the Taiping era, or Taiping Guanji. This one is wicked old, as in 9th century Song dynasty old, with plenty of Taoist magic, ghosts, and supernatural intrigue. I would add the Shadow Book of Ji Yun, a Chinese classic of weird but true tales, horror stories, and occult knowledge. Beginning in 1789, Ji Yun published 5 volumes of weird tales and ghost stories that combine supernatural autobiographical accounts with early speculative fictions, combining insights into Chinese magic and metaphysics with tales of cannibal villages, sentient fogs, alien encounters, and fox spirits, as well as accounts of soul swapping, haunted cities, and the Jiangshi, or Chinese vampire. There is no literary work quite like that of Ji Yun, Empress Wu Books publisher. This is 100% Paper Bride territory. To explore beyond simple name checking, we can say Paper Bride represents the Chinese manifestation of the wider concept of folk horror. The term folk horror is a loaded one, and Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched explores the many ways that we alternately celebrate, conceal, and manipulate our own histories in an attempt to find spiritual resonance in our surroundings. Paper Bride is in conversation with history, with place, with cultural legacy. It's in conversation with nostalgia and the idea of hometown, or one's Laojia, which holds special resonance here. And it's not the only work to be mining this territory. Kai Ma's 2016 found footage film, The Possessed, Zhongxie, sees a pair of teenagers investigating fortune tellers in the countryside. 2022's highly regarded Incantation, or Zhou, hits more than a few of the same thematic notes. focusing as it does on an isolated village and a cult which develops around a malevolent deity. Incantation's Mother Buddha could easily be interchangeable with Paper Bride's Buddha Vista of Death, and both grapple with the idea of mass hysteria. But how does Paper Bride meld its folk horror and puzzles? I played through the whole series on Steam, so it wasn't until I started researching for this video that I discovered the option to skip puzzles was tied to viewing an advertisement in the mobile version. This led to some criticism that the difficulty of the puzzles was funneling players into seeing ads for revenue purposes, but I think this compromise led to a brilliant outcome. Paper Bride is a game where you need to take notes. I love this. It even incorporates mobile phones into the gameplay as a not too subtle nudge that you should be taking pictures as well. The puzzles range the gamut of difficulty and type, but the state of flow comes in juggling several puzzles at once and always being able to get a step ahead in at least one. But the game accepts that not all players are the same. It was such a gallium-free that not everyone is going to appeal. It trains you from the get-go that it is okay to skip. It's fine to get hints. There are so many puzzles and so many interesting puzzles that it knows you won't abuse the tools it hands to you, that you won't cheat yourself, that you might not want to take on every last challenge, because we all have different tolerances or things that frustrate us. And yes, some of the mini games aren't perfectly implemented. The game is saying, when you stop enjoying this, when the hard is bad hard and not the good kind of hard, you have our permission to go ahead. There are cooldown timers on hints, and same with the skip button for harder puzzles. There is no punishment or in-game consequences for hints or skipping, but positive reinforcement in the form of trophies for getting through the trickiest head scratches on your own. The consistency and humble ambition, that unassuming competence of Paper Bride, marks it as the sleeper choice for China's best gaming franchise. I think it says more and does more than any other example I can think of. And if you want to delve in it yourself, this is a chronology of the games as far as storyline is concerned. But your best bet is to just play them in release order. And at some point I'd like to do a recap video as well, so I'm hoping you all enjoy this vid. What I'm going to end with here is a little teaser of the setting and story without jumping into massive spoilers. So after this, you'll be fully equipped to enter the beating origami heart of these games, which is Zangling Village. This rural nowhere is dogged by mystery and rumor, a secretive hotbed of feudal superstition that most calls to mind Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly's lost Minakami Village. Both hide the evil specter of human sacrifice. I guess because if you think about it, human sacrifice is the darkest endpoint of an isolated people and their strange traditions. The story of Zangling Village goes that it was built on an ancient battlefield. At some point in the Tang Dynasty, the monk Xuanzang, you know, the one bringing all those sutras to China in Journey to the West, stops by on his way back and realizes, oh damn, 6 of those sutras are actually heretical false truths. Whoopsie. Xuanzang needs to split, but he leaves the destruction of those 6 heretical sutras in the hand of Zangling's village chief. Big mistake. Do your own dirty work. Notice here too that the Zang in Zangling Village is the same character of Zang in Xuanzang the monk. So in their own self-mythology, the town claims this link to a major historical figure. Except another way you can read Zangling Village is like this. Now that Zang means miasma, like some kind of evil, oppressive fog. And it turns that out Zangling Village is home to a hallucinogenic flower, the Neverlily, wafting about everywhere and causing folk to become susceptible to illusions. Sorry, I mean go completely off their heads. So who knows if that sutra thing is a mass delusion or what? But in the telling of the drug-addled villagers at least, of course, the village chief does not destroy those evil sutras. No. Instead, a cult arises around them and the villagers begin to worship the so-called Buddha Vista of Death. Nice. Presided over by a head priest